right. Well, good evening. It is motivation and conversation. It ain't Tuesday, but it's motivation and conversation. And I am here with Miss Rosalind Davis, and we are going to be chatting about Pen to Paper 2026. The summit is coming up. Time has just flown.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, how are you, Miss Rosalind, on this Sunday evening?
I am doing wonderful. Bridget, let me tell you, I've been excited about the pen to paper because I've heard so much about the previous ones. And so I
Yes,
want to say thank you so much for inviting me to come in and not just to come and share, but to come and experience it for myself, to come and
absolutely.
experience myself. So I've been excited and I'm looking forward to it. And like you said, time is already done closed in upon us and we're ready to go forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, yes, I have been doing in the paper 9 years this year.
Wow.
And so next year will be 10 years. I started, the vision came to light 2016, 2017. I did my first workshop. And then I just kind of put it out there and say, hey, if you want to host a pen to paper workshop,
Wow.
reach out to me. And one of the first persons after I did it here in Texas, in Arlington, one of the other one of the first persons I would say was out of Las Vegas. And do you know I did pen to paper in Las Vegas every year consecutively. This year was the only year, the first year that I had not done pen to paper in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so it has been amazing. It has gone to various cities around the country, and we've had from 1 to 300
Wow.
over the course of the years. And so we've had workshops, we've had pen to paper masterminds, we've had pen to paper retreats, and it is an experience. And I'm telling you, one of the things I think I posted earlier today was the fact that if vision is not written, it will fade. It will fade away. And that's why the scripture lets us know in Habakkuk 2 and 2. You need to write the vision and make it plain. The Lord, Habakkuk was having a conversation with the Lord, and so he wanted him, now as I give this revelation, I need you to write the vision and make it plain, because it was important that we had access to what the Lord shared with Habakkuk even in that time. And so it's important that we capture the revelation that
Yes.
we get when God speaks to us, and when we get those witty ideas, and when we get that vision, because it's clear when we're hearing it and when we're seeing it in our spirit.
Yes.
But if we don't capture that in the moment, we can, it can fade away, and then we'll have a hard time recapturing it. So it has been all about vision and purpose, and encouraging people to not just exist, but to live. And so there's been so many facets of it. And so I'm excited about this year, which our theme is beyond the blueprint: vision, velocity, and vested action. And so all of that means something um, so significantly in the time that we're in. And with us having so many entrepreneurs emerging in this season, just because of the nature of the season that we're in, I think it's important that we understand what happens after the vision, after the blueprint of the vision, and you get that laid out. Then what's next? So I know your area is, a strategist, a strategy coach, and so we're going to be dealing with that velocity as we're talking tonight. So talk to me a little bit, tell people a little bit about what you do as a strategy coach, and how you got into this area, and let the people know a little bit about what Rosalind does and who Rosalind is.
Okay. Obviously, I'm a transformational success strategist, and reason I got into strategy is because a lot of times we can have a vision or we can have an idea, but like you
Yeah.
said, if we don't put that on paper and start
Hmm.
writing out action plan for it, then we never get there, and it get crowded.
Hmm.
And so I started creating the strategies, knowing that I needed a strategy to get there, and I knew that if
Yeah.
somebody had a vision, they were going to need a strategy to get there and not just
Absolutely.
idea. And so that's what I do. I help transform lives through, providing strategies, not
Yeah.
just motivation and inspiration and getting you
Yeah.
excited, but actually giving the strategies to help you get to that next place. So, like I said, that's what I do. And Bridget, it had to be something in my own life. God had to reveal to me that that's
Hmm.
necessary. And that's going back to Habakkuk too. And
Yep.
hey, write this thing down. Not only make it plain for yourself, but in order to get the movement and the connection and the community
Absolutely.
move it forward so others will know what is it that you're
Mhm.
trying to do so I can actually help you. And so
Absolutely.
that's where I am, and that's what I love helping other people do, providing that strategy, helping them discover that so that they can move forward and accomplish their goals.
That is so important, something you just said. It's just not for you, the visionary, but it's also for the purpose of the collaborator, right?
Yeah,
Because, and I always say, talk about this piece, clarity, because it's enveloped in here, because we
yeah,
got to get clear about the vision. But once we get the clarity, which it starts with us, we
mm,
are the foundation for the clarity. So once we get the clarity, we can communicate better,
yeah,
right? And
yes,
when we communicate better, when we get the confidence, the clarity, then the confidence, and then it helps us to communicate better. But then ultimately, it helps us to collaborate better. Because we
yeah,
don't have that vision written down, then we can't find ourselves in that process. Where
yeah,
is it that I plug in? What is it that I can do? How is it that I can help you? Right.
yeah,
And so that may be resources or that may be performance. And so we have to be very, very clear about our visions and make sure that they are properly written. Oftentimes, and I've worked with churches in the past, as well as business owners and nonprofit organizations, and a lot of times the problem that I find is that things are not documented. And
yeah,
so, if there is not a documented process,
yeah,
I always say policy is what you do,
yeah,
processes is how you do it, and your procedures are your steps you take to get it done. And
absolutely,
so, if there is no system, there's no infrastructure that
yeah,
is set up, once we get clarity, we need structure, we need a strategy, and then we need systems. And
yeah,
so, that is so important. And so, around this piece, like I said, our theme is beyond the blueprint, vision, velocity, invested action. And so vision velocity, of course, represents that stage of readiness in strategy and movement. And
yes.
so one of the things that when you hear that word velocity in business, what does it mean and what does it not mean? You know, why does this hit, so
I,
importantly for
I,
visionaries?
I I think a lot of people think that when they hear velocity, that they simply think about speed and they're looking at speed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole lot
Mm-hmm.
more than speed. And
Absolutely.
what I understand around velocity is not knowing how fast to get there, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to get there, but knowing where you need to be moving it. And a lot of
Absolutely.
times we got a lot of motion going, but we're not going to the place that we're aiming for, because that's what velocity looks like to me. Is when you
Absolutely.
know going, you know how you're going to get there. And I believe with that right there, that's where we see the acceleration at, because the
Mm-hmm.
clarity out where you're going and how you're going to get there. So in business, in personal life, all of that,
Absolutely.
that's
They
necessary.
intertwine.
Or
Absolutely. They intertwine. So what I heard you
absolutely,
say is sometimes we're going fast, but we ain't moving forward.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so what we have
That's
to get to,
the
this is the
thing.
yes, we have to get to the sustainable momentum, right? And so
Yes, yes,
that's hard for a lot of us as entrepreneurs because you got to find your pace, right? And so to your point, velocity is not always about speed. It's about finding that sustainable momentum. What's that
yes,
steady pace so that whether it's peak or valley, you got a pace and you continue to flow in that and you're not throwing in the towel, you're not giving up, but you find a pace that you can work at whatever is going on, with
absolutely.
the economy, whatever's going on, you have a way to pivot, continue to move forward, and do the thing you need to do. That's so important, And so I think that's something we have to think about. It's just like today, I think, and yesterday have been probably more of the productive days for entrepreneurs. Why?
Mhm.
Because we still
Yeah, yeah,
we can't be out here on this ice sliding and skating,
yeah,
right? So we got to sit down. So that gives us an opportunity to slow down, sit down,
yeah,
slow down, and really think about what do I have going on? What is it I need to do? What can I check off my to do list? I've had more calls a day than I normally get on a business work day,
right.
and so it's interesting how that works, but it is so 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 very important. And
Yeah.
so as we talk about this momentum, I want to ask this. So, what does prioritization look like when you're trying to build momentum? And how do you keep people from doing everything all at the same time? Because some of us we try to do all 12 of them at
Well,
the same time.
I think it all really boils down to, like I said, being clear. I think the clarity
Mm-hmm.
is going to be key before we can, like you said, before we can get that speed or move forward or get that momentum. Before we get there, is being clear about where it
Mm-hmm.
is that you're going. And so many times, like I said, we want things, but we are really not clear about
Mm-hmm.
how to get there, what that's going to look like, and we don't have the systems in place in order to do it. So we find ourselves all over the place and getting nothing done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that gets us to this thing about decision making.
Absolutely.
So for you, what do you think? What decisions must be made faster if somebody wants to build real velocity? Because that's where I think that's where it lies, because we got to get the clarity, but we also got to figure out what decisions do I need to make? Because sometimes people are just moving and they're vacillate back and forth. They're very indecisive. So it's like everything is a revolving circle, and it causes them to continue to do this speed thing, but they're not moving forward.
Well, I think that in order to make that type of decision, like I said, it's still going to go back to clarity. But like I said, the
Mhm.
prioritization of what is needed right now. A
Yep.
lot of times we can see all the different parts that's necessary, but all of those
Mhm.
parts are not necessary in that moment. So I've got to learn how to decide in the moment what is necessary
Mhm.
right now in this moment. What is it that I can actually do to get results right now? And
Yep.
I think that that is where that decision making is going to be key at deciding on what can I do right now
Yeah.
to move me
Yep.
forward.
That's good. That's good. And I know we're gonna get the frameworks and all that stuff, at the summit. But I wanted to touch on that because
Yes.
we have to have a plan of action. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what strategy is all about. Strategy is a plan of action. And so while we can have all the tools and all that kind of thing, but at the end of the day, you need to have a strategy. Yes, we know that God is in control, but you want to have a plan in action and then leave room for the plan of God. That's what I always say. And then we know his plan always rules. Um, but as we kind of go a little bit deeper, what decisions do you see entrepreneurs delaying the most?
I think one of the decision is getting started. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
jumping out there. I think a lot of times we get so caught
Mm-hmm.
up in, and this is one of the strategies that I learned. And I think it was Colin Powell. I learned it from
Mm-hmm.
Colin Powell. And Colin Powell said that if you have 70% of the information,
Mm-hmm.
jump out there and go at it. And so many
Mm-hmm.
times I think entrepreneurs are being delayed because they're trying to get in this place of perfection, trying to have
Mm-hmm.
everything in place. If you have
Yep.
70% of the information, I believe that
Mm-hmm.
what we need to do. And I think that that's the biggest delay for most entrepreneurs.
And the other thing too, I think sometimes we're waiting for somebody to approve, disapprove, or agree,
Abs-
or
Absolutely.
we're wanting that affirmation from somebody. But that's where you get that clarity, that confidence comes for you to be
Absolutely.
able to do the thing you need to do. And it was something, I was talking to, of course, Coach Spence the other night, and I tell you, this is gonna be. I mean, if it's just us in the room by ourselves, it's gonna be powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of y'all just had this energy. But at the end of the day, Coach Spence kept saying the same thing. He said, you know what? Coach Bridget, it comes back to clarity. It keeps coming back to this place of clarity. And it's so true. And
Absolutely.
it's one of those things when you're in alignment because it's whispering and buzzing out there. Everybody's talking about clarity. There are different perspectives. I was listening to a message today, and it was on clarity. Now, a total different approach, but a lot of the things were still aligned and still was confirmation as to what we're doing in the Pen to Paper Summit 2026. And so I want to pause there and encourage you, if you have not registered. Now, there's no excuse because we have a virtual option that's available, so you can be in the comfort of your own home and you can still get this powerful, powerful impartation and experience of the Pen to Paper Summit 2026. You want to go ahead and jump on over there. Look, we give you permission right now. Go on to the website, bridgetmoody.com/events, and grab your seat. But one of the things that is so important is that we understand what clarity is for us as individuals. And
Mhm.
that was the theme of what I heard today. You have to be clear. And once you get to that place, there's so many things that hinge on your clarity operating system. And there are
Yeah.
three components of that. That's an operating system that you can utilize in any situation at any time. That's number one, your core values. You got to
Yeah.
know what those are, right? Because that's going to help you make some good decisions. I mean, you got to know what are your goals, because all of those things have to align. Your core values, your goals, and then number three, your non-negotiables. You got to
Yes.
know what's a non-negotiable. That
Yes.
I'm not doing. That I'm not crossing that line. That is crossing a boundary. I'm not doing it. Because what happens in that situation? You get distracted, you delay, you lose track of time, and time is valuable because you can't get it back. You can't repurpose it. You can't get a refund on it. And
Absolutely.
you can't, yeah. Once your time has been spent, you want to be clear about the time you're spending and where you're spending and who you're spending it with
Yes.
and how you're investing that time. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the things, that Coach Spence was saying the same thing. It comes back to clarity because it's not a feeling, it's an operating system, you
That's it.
know. And I
That's
say this all the time, clarity is not a destination and it's not a discovery because you may have clarity about one thing today, but tomorrow you may not be clear about something else. So
okay.
that's why it has to be an operating system by which you function and flow every day.
Every day. Every day.
Yep, every day.
That's
And it's got to be a sustainable momentum.
absolutely.
Um, Now, another question when we talk about, velocity, and that is, what would you say? Because different things can happen in the course of time as you're working on different things. So, how do you decide what to speed up on and what to slow down on?
I think the thing that when you find yourself in a place of bottlenecking is when you
Mm-hmm.
step back and assess and slow down instead of trying to force it. Now, if you see that
Mm-hmm.
you're getting that momentum and you're seeing things move, I can see you kind of picking the pace up a little bit. But if you see
Mm-hmm.
yourself going around the same cycle, the same situation, it's time to slow things down. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
step back and begin to look at things differently. So I think when you can see momentum and movement, that you can kind of turn it up a little bit. But when you see that you're not getting traction and you see
Yep.
keep experiencing this
Yep.
setback, this same
That's good.
cycle, it's really time to take a step back and slow
Mm-hmm.
this thing down so that you can go and do an extraction on what's really going on.
Absolutely.
Go and
Absolutely.
extract the things that are working, the things that are not working. You're going to have to make a decision. You know what? These are the things that I'm going to stop doing because it's
Mm-hmm.
not getting results.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that we just finished at the top of the year, what's called the Let's Get Clear Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And during that challenge, there were a few things. One of the things most important um, to our cognitive congestion, because,
Yes.
and I say our cognitive congestion because we have so much information that we process on a daily basis, not
Yeah.
monthly, not weekly, but
Yeah.
on a daily basis, we are
Yeah.
processing so much information. And so we have to have a way to offload, to extract without understanding. And so, what does that mean? Extraction without understanding. That means you just need to get stuff out of your head every day. You
Yeah.
need to have a little notepad or a voice recorder, something where you're offloading thoughts, you're offloading commitments, you're offloading obligations, you're offloading ideas, you're offloading business things, things with the family, whatever that is. But you need to take a few minutes every day
Yes.
and offload. And you're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to resolve it. You're just trying to get it out of your head because cognitively we can be congested to an extent that
Mm-hmm.
it becomes chaotic. And
Yes.
so nothing has a flow to it. We can't establish any velocity because we have too much in our head. And so it is healthy for us to be able to offload. It's healthy for us, and this is scientifically proven, to write. Writing is important. And
Yeah.
so it becomes the head, the hand, and the heart kind of situation, right? And
Yes.
so all of those things flow together. And so I don't think people sometimes realize the power, the timelessness of pen to paper,
Absolutely.
and what writing does for us from a
Absolutely.
health perspective, from a stress relieving perspective, and definitely from ideation perspective,
Yes.
because there's so much more creativity that comes out. Because what happens is once we extract, then we can see all the things that we're trying to process. But you
Absolutely.
can't see it when it's in your head.
Absolutely. And that reminded me again, and even though you had shared about the yarn, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Yarn, and what we did, it was a rubber ball that when we did it, they had the rubber ball wrapped up. And
Uh-huh.
only that's why we stay in a state of confusion, because all of
Yes,
this stuff is wrapped up, and people will say, well, I just feel confused, because they're not offloading, because they're not
that's
taking
right.
that time to write things down so that they can,
Absolutely.
exactly where their thoughts are, so that they can separate. You know what I'm saying? This right here, I can put over there. That's one of those things where they say you can delegate it, you can dump it, you can do
Absolutely.
it, you know? And
Absolutely.
I can put it
Absolutely.
in, you know what? I'm gonna have to dump this. I'm gonna have to delay this. I can delegate this, and this is the thing that I need to be doing, instead of just
Absolutely.
allowing all those thoughts to continue to, roll around in our heads, because they gonna roll until till we release them.
Absolutely.
They're
Absolutely.
gonna roll
Well, you know, I
until
am so excited about Pen to Paper 2026 and those of you that are presenting because I think it's going to be such a value to those in attendance. And so oftentimes we think we're clear and we're not. So oftentimes we think we have dotted every I and crossed every T, and we have not. And so it's a space where it's an experience. Like I think, um, and sometimes I can't even explain the things that happen because the energy, the synergy depends upon the people in the room.
yeah,
Um, but at the end of the day, it has never failed that people walk out with results. They walk out with an understanding, they walk out with
yeah,
clarity. And that is what's important, the impact of the process that helps people to get the clarity. Not only that, they're introduced to perspectives about how they're thinking about their ideas and their vision that helps to give them enhanced clarity around
absolutely,
some of the things that they can do or lanes that they can go down or pivots that they can make. And
yeah,
so I'm just excited about what each of you all are bringing to the summit and how it's going to encapsulate that clarity piece, right?
yeah.
Because I'm just gonna lay the foundation and I'm gonna let y'all come and finish making the sandwich. Y'all gonna put all the good stuff on there. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna put the bread on back on the top. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I think in a day and time where we have so much technology, even with AI, you have to be able to give it. You got to tell AI what you need. You got
Yes,
to talk to it. And
yes,
so if you haven't documented some stuff and kind of you went through that process of thinking it through, sometimes you can't really get that part right because you'll say it ain't working right. Well, it ain't working right because you ain't feeding it the right information. And so even with AI in the whole nine, and I always use this analogy, even with the circumstances of the inclement weather we're dealing with here in Texas and of course around the country this weekend. One of the things that I say if there's an idea or something that I want to flesh out, I can do that on paper, even if the power goes out. Power's
absolutely,
in the pen.
absolutely,
Power's in the pen. And so
yeah,
I can continue to create ideas, write ideas, and I don't lose that, right?
yeah,
It doesn't go off poof in a system somewhere when something goes down. And so it's something I think it's a timeless piece. And I know there are many, many, many successful people that pen to paper is the thing that they do on a consistent basis.
yeah,
And they're billionaires and
yeah,
millionaires, but
yeah,
they journal, they write, they put pen to paper. And so it's cathartic, it's therapeutic, and of course, it's scientific proven that it helps us to progress our thoughts forward and to get our visions moving. So it's a documented direction that
yes,
helps us to not only increase our articulation, make our documentation better, but it also helps us to have better demonstration of our vision. That means we embody it differently because we have attached ourselves to it. Sometimes when you do things with technology, it doesn't come out the same when you're expressing it because you didn't write it down. And
yeah,
it's something
yeah,
about what we retain when we write it down.
absolutely.
And so yeah, I'm excited. So any additional thoughts you have about? I know it's going to be amazing. And you have a presentation that's going to help us with that whole strategic piece and some sustainable momentum. because there are a lot of pieces that go with that. You're gonna give us some frameworks that'll help
Yeah.
us so when we get into those situations. But anything else you want to say to the people before we conclude tonight? I appreciate you being on, talking a little
Well,
bit about pen and paper
I'm
paper.
excited to experience it myself. I'm excited to
Yes,
experience it myself because of what I've heard the other speakers talk about. I'm excited
yeah,
framework. I'm excited about the energy that they're going to bring to the room. And I'm
yes,
excited to have the opportunity to come in to add value and to support the work that you're doing and to help in the continuing that. So I'm excited about it. And what I want to say to you today is this. It's, if you have not registered, I'm just going to echo what Bridget has already released. Go ahead and register now. You don't have to wait.
yes.
You can go ahead and register now. So, and we'll see you all at Pen and Paper.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so
yeah, to the
here's yes, absolutely. And so here's the thing. Um, vested action. And so you want to take action and you want to invest
yeah,
in yourself. And I know it's all kinds of things going on, but at the end of the day, we'll put more on us than we'll put in us. And
yes,
so we
yeah,
have to take the opportunity to make the investment, not only financially, but with your time. And I
yes,
promise you, if you make the investment, you will be glad that you did, and
yes,
you will not leave the same way that you came. It will be not just an event, but an experience.
let me
Well, listen,
see.
once again, go to bridgetmoody.com/events and get registered for Pen to Paper Summit 2026. It's happening this weekend, January 31st, starting at 10 a.m. and will be there until 4 p.m. It's happening at the Urbane Collective located in Plano, Texas at 1301 Custer Road, Suite 822. And so make sure that you get your ticket, and we're looking forward to seeing you in the room. We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend.